Welcome to My Close Friends, where I talk about books and movies. For the month of March, I discovered Kindle Unlimited, so I was able to read some titles and authors that I normally wouldn't have read. I also decided to venture into romance, which I am not a romance buff at all. Personally, and this can just be the gremlin side of me, I need some stakes. I don't just want to read cutesy stuff. I need a little conspiracy, a few bullets, sell a bag of white powder. I need something like that. But I did end up finding two good titles. I guess I'll go ahead and get into the books that I read. So I read Remedy by Erica Denise, which is a novella. The Other Side of Fame by D. Rose. I actually finished that one the other day. I read three Brandon Massey novels: Bad Influence, The X's, and No Stone Unturned. And then I had The Red Room by India T. Norfleet. And then finally, I had two breakout stars, which are Black Girl Gone by India Ray and The Wife Before by Shanora Williams. So I'm not a romance buff, but I did enjoy Remedy and The Other Side of Fame. They reminded me a lot of Tumblr in the best way possible, especially The Other Side of Fame because it is a music fake dating romance. As someone who used to love like Tiger and Chris Brown and Trey Songz fanfics before they became crazy, I personally got brought back to those days in the seventh grade when I first got reminded of Tumblr. Of course, it is a lot more mature because an adult is writing the book. Eh, I'll be honest, romance is definitely not a genre that speaks to me, even with me enjoying these two novels. I feel like there were different points in the novels where I got kind of excited. Like in The Other Side of Fame, the young lady Heaven has a crazy ex-boyfriend who like he screwed her over in the industry. He broke up with her for like some Instagram model and their label mates, and so between him abusing her and the label mate going to the label to try to get her in trouble, and basically she almost getting blacklisted or blackballed or whatever they call it, I kind of got excited when there was finally some confrontation for the ex, especially when Fame was saying that he knew people that could make something disappear. He can make something happen. I kind of got excited. I was hoping that it would go there, but it did not. Same with like Remedy. There's a crazy ex girlfriend in the picture who has a bad BBL. I was kind of hoping something would happen. I was kind of hoping that we would have gotten like a detailed squad between Trinity and the crazy girlfriend. I think her name was Chesley or something like that. But we did not get that, unfortunately. Both stories did have a happy ending. I feel like with Remedy, it was a lot more to the point. Whereas with The Other Side of Fame, I kind of got thrown off just a little bit. They have a fake dating trope. They start basically a PR relationship. And by the middle of the book, both parties have come to the conclusion that they have deeper feelings for the other party outside of just whatever arrangement they have, and they've admitted as much to each other, but yet they keep saying, oh, you're holding yourself back from me, you don't want to be with me, I don't want to be with you. At a certain point, it got just a little redundant. I'm like, we could have spent some of these pages getting rid of the ex. We could have spent some of these pages putting hands on the new wife. Something. A little more catharsis, I think, was owed to Heaven after what happened to her in the industry. After all that she was going through, I feel like I wanted some of those pages, at least 20 of them, to be her putting her hands on the girl Deja, or something happening mysteriously to Quan. We could have made this an Illuminati conspiracy. We could have done something like that. But I digress. Ultimately, I enjoyed it. Romance still is not my preferred genre, but I definitely would recommend these two novels if you are into romance. After reading romance, I needed a gateway back into gremlinhood, and so I read The Red Room by India T. Norfleet. The best way to describe The Red Room is it's basically a written Tubi movie, specifically a Detroit Tubi movie, the best kind. So, our main protagonist, Mona, owns a popular massage parlor, and there is a real estate developer that is trying to muscle her out of her shop. He's trying to talk sweet at first, but she's obviously not interested in his offer. So, he starts doing some digging in hopes that he can blackmail her out of the property, but she has a clean record. The shop has never been in the center of any controversy or any scandals. So, his logical idea is that I'm going to violate my license and try to sleep with her so that she can lose her license and lose her shop. That absolutely positively is going to blow over well in court, right? Come to find out, this is all some elaborate scheme from her ex Sean. Basically, Sean is blackmailing his friend Hollister, who owns the company that hired Carter, who is the real estate developer that has gotten in contact with Mona. Basically, he's muscling them to muscle her out of her shop so that they can acquire the shop and Sean could buy it back for her and give it to her. This is his, I guess, consolation prize for being a fuckboy in the past. You see how stupid that sounds, right? So obviously that shit didn't work out for him. Yeah. Pretty good book though. It's very raunchy if you are into a good smut, a good spicy story. I can vividly see the guy from The Shy. He also is in a bunch of Detroit Tubi movies. He was in the movie where it's like No Mercy or something like that. He played the fuckboy husband. He's always playing a fuckboy. I could definitely see him playing Sean. Like that, I immediately saw him when I read Sean's character. All in all, I give it a nice solid 8 out of 10. So fortunately, Kindle Unlimited has, I think, the majority of Brandon Massey's catalog. So I read 3 of his titles, and I noticed a bit of a pattern. Usually, he's going to have really stupid protagonists, or not even stupid. They just make dumbass decisions because they don't want to stand on business about something. So in the case of the exes, right, you have the main protagonist, Austin. His crazy wife tried to take him out. She ended up going to jail for only 7 years. Instead of moving out of the state of Georgia, getting a new name, making sure he had all of his ducks in a row when it came to custody and all that of his son, he simply moved to Atlanta, which I don't know how far Albany is from Atlanta, but I'm sure it's a drive. I don't even think it's going to take the full day. It wouldn't take much for someone to find you. Furthermore, why would you invite your crazy in-laws, the ones who have been enabling your crazy ex-wife and stalking you and wreaking havoc on you now that she's out of the joint? Why would you invite them to dinner? Make it make sense. In the case of No Stone Unturned, he wasn't stupid necessarily, but he really should have learned how to fight. When you realized that there was going to be this fake ass Thor, you probably should have took a lesson or two. I think Adrian definitely pissed me off the most because he was so busy kissing his boss's ass that he didn't notice the good son bitch that was creeping into his family and almost took his daughter out the game. Had he not been a social climber, a lot of the events in the book wouldn't have happened. All in all, I give each of his novels that I read a calm 8 to 8.5 out of 10. I think I definitely would give the 8.5 to No Stone Unturned because it had the craziest twist. Yeah, pretty good books. Definitely a great palate cleanser, especially if you are big on the suspense and thriller genre. You would like Brandon Massey's books. They're to the point, very straightforward. So the breakout stars for the month of March would have to be The Wife Before by Shanora Williams and Black Girl Gone by India Ray. I wasn't really expecting much from either title. Like, The Wife Before I had been interested in for some time, but I could never find it in stock. So when I saw it was on Kindle Unlimited, I got really excited. It was amazing. Like, it had so many twists and turns. I was truly gagged by the end of the book. So basically it follows the main protagonist, Brianna. She's in a really bad time in her life. She's having a hard time holding down a job, namely because she's irresponsible. Like, she gets fired because she's always showing up late, and she's showing up late because she's hungover or she flat out doesn't care to keep the job. Part of that is because like her mother worked herself into the ground, so her and her brother kind of have they're like polar opposites as far as the work ethic. Her brother took after the mother, where she learned from the mother and is like, I'm not going to stress about a job, even to a point where she can be facing eviction, she could be down to her last penny. She is not going to stress over a job. This comes at a really bad time though, because her older brother is about to get married. He just found out his fiance is pregnant, and they're trying to move into a home because they're about to have a baby. So he's not going to be able to financially support her, where she would normally have like some odd jobs. He would supplement the rest of the income. He's not going to be able to do that anymore. So her friend's boyfriend puts her on to this opportunity to be a waitress at some party from this millionaire or billionaire named Lola Maxwell. It's some sort of banquet. It's like $300 for a few hours of waitressing. So she ends up kind of knocked off her kilter because I guess it's been so long since she's been a waitress. She ends up dropping a tray of drinks. She cuts herself by accident trying to clean up the mess. And so this really handsome guy helps her out and patches her up, and his name is Roland. He is a famous golf player. And he ominously talks about like, oh, you really don't know who I am. At least I can meet you before the public opinion of me gets to you, right? She doesn't think much of it. She looks into him, finds out that he had a wife before her, but she kind of stops reading once they start reporting on his relationship with her. So one day she's having lunch with her brother after she's kind of calmed down from him cutting her off, and he's like, yeah, did you look into this guy? And she's like, yeah, of course. He was like, you couldn't have, because if you did, you would know that he took out his first wife. And so basically there's this huge question mark about his wife's unaliving. Basically, his alibi checked out, but it was a lot of stuff that was going on in their marriage that people were kind of disquieted about. They automatically shot him to the top of the list. They completely ruled out the idea of her doing it herself. So, against her better judgment, and I think part of it is not only being cut off by her brother, but basically her roommate's boyfriend is supposed to be moving in, and she knows that she's going to have to move out soon because they're going to want their own space. Part of it is like the need to survive. She rushes into this relationship and later a marriage with Roland, despite the fact that she isn't completely convinced that he did not do the deed when it came to his wife. So he moves her to Colorado in the same mansion where his wife used to live, and they discover, or she discovers, that there's a shed in the backyard. Basically, he tells her, he's very forthcoming, like, yeah, that's where all her old stuff is. Her sister and mother were supposed to come get it, but they never got around to doing it. And so he's like, I can get rid of the stuff, or you can get rid of the stuff. And she decides to get rid of the stuff so that she can use that shed space as an office for a graphic design project that she wants to do. So when she's going through the woman's stuff, she finds pretty regular stuff, clothes. The woman had like an apparel line or a jewelry line. And she ends up finding this stack of pictures that's pretty innocuous at first, and then she starts seeing some racier images, like, oh, okay, that's unique. Then she finds a series of journals that the wife kept, and against her better judgment, she starts reading them, and the first thing that she reads is, where did me and Roland's marriage go wrong? And so as she reads the story, she realizes that there was a lot of very unique flaws between Roland and his first wife, Melanie. She finds out that there was some infidelity on Melanie's part. There's a drug addicted sister. Basically, there are a lot of people introduced in these journals, basically, that could prove that Roland may not necessarily be lying when he says that he didn't take his wife out. This was amazing. The twist at the end was perfect. I feel like if they adapt this into like a series or a movie, the guy who plays Roy in Beauty and Black should definitely play Dylan. So Black Girl Gone wasn't something that I had ever heard of. I didn't have any real expectations for it, and I'm so glad that I went ahead and just read it because it was amazing. So our main protagonist, Charmaine, was kidnapped from a festival or a fair when she was like 7 years old, and she was forced into this weird Franken religious cult. It's like equal parts Hebrew Israelites, 5%ers, Muslims, and the Old Testament of the Bible. And that's the basis of Baba's religion. That's the man who held her captive. He was equal parts her father and her husband. So you can guess, you can assume she encountered just about every type of abuse you can think of. So after 20 years of captivity, she takes him out and she finally escapes and she reunites with her old family. And no one is acting like a family that just reunited with their family member after 20 years. No one tries to get her therapy. No one gives her a real hug. No one seems particularly interested in her return. It just immediately goes into this weird transactional relationship led by her older sister. They're trying to thrust her in front of the news, newspapers, articles, just to tell her story. And flat out, the sister is using her for money because I guess her fame, after she started a podcast when Charmaine first went missing, she ended up being propelled into the spotlight. She made a lot of money off of it, and that money was starting to dry up. So now that Charmaine is back, she's flat out using her. Like, she overhears her telling her husband, just give me a few days, I'm gonna get back on top. You know, Charmaine's gonna do some articles and we'll be back on top, basically. So nobody really cares to make Charmaine comfortable, to welcome her back into the family, to welcome her into civilization. I mean, she went missing at the age of 7. It was in a cult that was mostly closed off from the rest of the world. Everything was the devil to this guy. He didn't want you engaging in social media, sugar, modern technology. Everything was designed to suck your brain and feast on your weakness and make you into a sheep, basically. So this woman is severely stunted, and everyone's just like, well, you need to run everything back. You need to pay us back for keeping your legacy alive. So you can guess there's some strange shit going on with this family, and nothing prepared me for the actual twists and turns of this particular book. If they do make this into a series, they need to make sure that Mahershala Ali plays the father, Charmaine's father. And that's all I'll say. All in all, I read some really great books. Kindle Unlimited definitely had exactly what I was looking for in the realm of thriller and suspense. They were not heavy. There was some, of course, some stuff that brought you to pause, but it was not nearly as heavy as some of the stuff I read back in February. And I was pleasantly surprised. I would definitely maintain my Kindle Unlimited subscription. Even though I do plan on, Kindle cannot replace physical books for me. I am a physical book girly, but all in all, it's a really great service. I'm very happy with the books that I read, and I hope that you guys found some great books for the month of March, and I hope you have some good reads for the month of April too. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.